I just hit a very big milestone in my personal dividend portfolio. To show you exactly what the update is, we'll be jumping into my do-it-yourself investor toolkit, which you can download on my Patreon page and join a community of dividend investors. Now, I do have quite a few things that I want to point out in this video, but I want to go ahead and get to the very big update. So if we jump over to my dividend dashboard, right here you can see my expected yearly dividend income is now sitting over $3,000 a year. Now, just a few weeks ago, I did release a portfolio update, and at the time of that video, it was sitting under $3,000. It was closer to around $2,900, and you can see there was a big jump up all the way to $3,226. So that was a pretty big jump up. So what was the cause of this huge spike up in my expected yearly dividend income? Well, if we jump over to my investment dashboard, you'll notice that my portfolio's holdings look a little bit differently. SCHD now makes up around 37.3% of my portfolio, which is a pretty big jump up. Well, I actually sold out of two positions that were S&P 500 positions, and I reallocated most of that capital into SCHD. This was a move I'd been wanting to make for a while, and the time seemed like it was right to make it. Personally, I am perfectly fine with SCHD making up over 37% of my portfolio. In fact, in the future, it may even be a little bit larger than it is currently. Now, why am I so comfortable with SCHD being such a large position in my portfolio? I'll go ahead and discuss this for a moment. I don't want to talk about SCHD too much because I have plenty of videos discussing SCHD, but obviously we can see over the past decade, they have seen phenomenal share price appreciation. They have a very nice starting dividend yield sitting at 3.5%. And if we compare them to other dividend growth ETFs over the past 10 years, it's very clear that SCHD has performed all of them. I love these dividend ETFs such as DGRO, VYM, but again, SCHD's total return outpaces them by quite a bit over the 10-year, 5-year, and 3-year time periods. So total return is obviously an extremely important metric, but something that I absolutely have to see for my investments is dividend growth. I think this will be a huge factor in allowing me to live off of dividends as absolutely fast as I can. So if we jump over to the dividend tab and look at the dividend growth rates for this company, I'll scroll down. You can see it's extremely high. The 3-year dividend growth rate sitting at 12.3, the 5-year sitting at 13.92, and the 10-year sitting at 11.32. That is exactly what I'm looking for with my investments. So if we jump back over to my spreadsheet, let's go ahead and dig into how this affects my portfolio just a little bit more. Now you can see the current portfolio value actually still sitting pretty close to where it was as of a few weeks ago when I released my portfolio update, but the total holdings has now been reduced to 33. Again, right now I'm trying to get that closer to 30 and eventually closer to 25. So I want to consolidate a little bit. So this move did help me a little bit in that area. But if we jump over to my dividend dashboard again, like I already pointed out, expected yearly dividend income now sitting at $3,226. This also bumped up my average monthly dividends to almost $270 a month. Now my portfolio dividend yield jumped up quite a bit because the two positions I sold out of had lower starting dividend yields, while SCHD's starting dividend yield is sitting at around 3.5%. So the current portfolio dividend yield sitting at 3.8. Actually, in the future, I want to get this closer to 3.5% because I want to make sure that my dividend yield isn't too high, because at times that can affect the ability of the companies that you own to increase their dividends over time. Now let's go ahead and zoom in just a little bit more and talk about this journey that I've been on. If I scroll down here, you can see my projected annual dividend income chart. So I started tracking this in September of 2022, and at the time, my annual dividend income was sitting at $1,345. Jump forward to January of 2023, the start of this year, my projected annual dividend income under $2,000, sitting at around $1,945. So this year has been a very steady increase month over month. That's what I love about investing into dividend stocks. While my portfolio value will jump up and down, we can see a very steady increase over time in my dividend payments every single year. So in February, it jumped up to 2,100 yearly dividends. In March, 2,333, April 2,590, May 2,754, June 2,850, and then last month it was sitting at 2,928, and after this huge move of reallocation of capital, I'm sitting at 3,226. So this was a big jump up. If we come over here, we can see SCHD is now paying me over $1,000 every single year in dividend income. It's sitting close to $1,200 actually. Again, this move was made in mind with what will allow me to live off of dividend income at the fastest rate possible. Now, a lot of people think that simply investing into high-yielding dividend stocks is the best way to do this, but as I've pointed out in previous videos and will continue to point out in future videos, that's not necessarily the best way to do it. Obviously, everyone's situation is different, but if you're still a long way off from being able to live off of dividends, you'll likely want to invest into companies that continue to increase their dividend payouts year over year. So let's go ahead and jump into my live off of dividends analysis because I want to show you why SCHD is such a phenomenal investment for people looking to live off of dividends. So if we jump to my portfolio projection tab, I'll go ahead and zoom in because I want you to see some of these variables. Right now, my starting portfolio size is sitting at around 92,000. The current projections I have for the price growth rate is 7% and the dividend growth rate is 7%. Now I'm assuming contributions of $2,500 every month and a starting portfolio dividend yield sitting at around 3.5%. Keep in mind that's about where I want my portfolio to be at. But if we jump back over to SCHD and some of those stats we were looking at just a moment ago, if we look at those dividend growth rates again, the 3, 5, and 10-year dividend growth rates all very high, above 11%. So let's say in a best case scenario, SCHD performs just as well as it has over the past decade. If we jump back over to my spreadsheet, let's just assume they have a dividend growth rate of 11.32%. And I did some research earlier and I found that their price growth rate was around 10% over the past decade. So I'll go ahead and plug in those variables. That's not exact, it's actually a little bit higher, but again, I'm gonna go ahead and assume a 10% growth rate. So I'll hit enter and you can see I've now projected out over 30 years of performance. My cost of living as of right now, I'm assuming is around $4,250. I'm assuming inflation of 2%. So you can see how our cost of living line increases year after year. Now let's jump into our live off of dividends analysis. I'll zoom out just a little bit. And you can see this chart showing us exactly at what point I'll be able to live off of dividends. The cost of living is my black line, the red line is my monthly dividend payments. So this area right here is the point at which I would be able to live off of dividends. So if we come over here, we can see exactly when that happens. I'll start scrolling down and you can see after 5 years, I'm still not there. After 10 years, I'm still not there. But it looks like in this scenario, after about 13.5 years, I would be able to live off of my dividend payments. That is extremely fast, and that's one of the reasons that I love SCHD so much, because they are continuing to increase the amount they pay out in dividends every single year. Now, to be fair, I don't know if it will perform as well as it has over the past decade. The past decade has obviously been a really good time for returns in the market, so I do like to be a little bit more conservative with my projections. So I stick with a 7% price growth rate and a 7% dividend growth rate. So we'll go back and look at where we're at. And you can see with this analysis, we'll scroll down a little bit more, but even then, I can still live off of dividends after about 17 years. So I think SCHD is a phenomenal option for people looking to one day be able to live off of dividend income. One of the things we also need to understand about the market right now is we are in a period of high valuation. If we jump back over to Seeking Alpha, let's look at the S&P 500. I'll put in SPY, I'll hit enter, click on summary, and we can see year to date, the S&P 500 up almost 17.5%. So a lot of these companies within the S&P 500 are trading at much higher prices than they were 1 year ago. If you go back and look at my videos back in November or October or September of 2022, you could see I was adding tons of new positions to my portfolio at prices that I felt like were very good. With the current market, it's much harder for me to find deals that I really like that I want to add a lot of capital to in my portfolio. So last month, really the only thing I did was add to SCHD. Now this month so far, I actually have found a few opportunities that I have added to my portfolio, which I'll discuss in my next portfolio update. But during periods of high valuation, you can see I made a note to dollar cost average into SCHD. That will continue to be a large part of my personal plan right now, as you can see from the reallocation that I just went through. So to quickly summarize, I do think it's important as dividend investors to celebrate the milestones that we hit as we go throughout our journey. So whether you're just starting out or already making over $10, $50, or $100,000 in yearly dividend income, definitely take some time to celebrate those milestones because they will keep you motivated to continue on your journey. For me personally, $3,000 is a huge milestone, and over $250 a month, also a huge milestone, so I was excited to go ahead and make this video. I'd love if you'd leave a comment down below and let me know what your next milestone that you plan on celebrating with your dividend portfolio is. And like always, if you'd like to download this spreadsheet or any of my other spreadsheets and join a community of dividend investors, then you can head over to my Patreon page at the link in the description. So with all of that being said, thank you guys so much for joining me on this journey and watching this video, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.